Morning. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the general properties of the sun. Now, in this lecture, we will discuss briefly about the structure of the sun. While discussing the structure of the sun, we should be very careful that still we are not in a position to say something very clearly about the interior part of the sun. What we know is that the sun is having a structure like this. It is having an inner core which is where the nuclear fusion reaction takes place, which is at a very high temperature. 16 million Kelvin is the temperature there. Then surrounding that region there is a gas layer which is called the radiative zone. Surrounding that radiative zone we are having a convection zone. So this is the interior part of the sun, and more information regarding these three regions are unavailable to us. So during the course of our discussion, we will try to focus on the atmosphere of the sun or the outer layers of the sun. The outer layers of the sun is called the sun's atmosphere. Actually, this picture of our sun's structure actually comes from the direct observations of its outer layer and indirect theoretical calculations of the behavior of the gases deep inside the sun, and that we cannot see. So we will discuss about the outer layer of the sun, which is called the sun's atmosphere. The sun's atmosphere can be classified into three regions or three layers. They are photosphere, chromosphere and corona. Photosphere is the innermost layer of the sun's atmosphere. The photosphere, which is actually comes from the Greek word, which means that photo means that light and sphere means ball. So photosphere means it is the light ball. It is actually the visible surface of the sun. The shining disk of the sun that we see in the sky is the photosphere. As you know that we are seeing the sun in a disk or like a disk, and this shining disk is the visible part of the sun, which is the photosphere. When we consider the properties of this photosphere, we can see that it is a very thin, hot, opaque gas layer. That is, photosphere also consisting of gas. Actually, the hydrogen gas is there, and it is an opaque gas layer, which means that we cannot see through that layer. That means we cannot see whatever is inside this photosphere. So the transparency of this layer is nil, or there is no transparency. That's why it is called an opaque gas layer. That means we cannot see through this layer. And this hot layer, hot means its temperature is around 5800 kelvins, from which the energy is radiated into the space. And the word thin means it extends to around 200 to 300 kilometers. When considering the astronomical distances, this distance 200 to 300 kilometers are very small distance. That's why it is considered as a very thin layer. That when we going into the picture, you can see that this layer photosphere is how much small when compared to the other atmospheric layers and other layers of the sun. The visible disk of the sun, which we recognize as the solar surface, is the base of the photosphere. And I told you this is the innermost layer of the solar atmosphere, to which our eyes can penetrate through the superficial transparent layers. Our view is obstructed beyond this layer by the rapidly increasing opacity of the denser layers of the gases inward. While discussing the particle density, you can see that the particle density of this layer is around 10 raised to 15 to 10 raised to 16 particles per centimeter cube. I told you the thickness of this layer is around 200 to 300 kilometers. This distance is very small while considering the astronomical distances. That's why it is referred to as a thin layer. Now if we consider the spectrum, the spectrum actually gives the information regarding the different elements present in that layer. So if we consider the spectrum of photosphere, it is a continuous absorption spectrum, and which is a continuous absorption spectrum of H minus ions, that is hydrogen minus ions, originate entirely in the photosphere. Also, the observations indicates that most of the solar absorption lines originate in the photosphere. Now when we observe the spectrum, we can see the weaker lines and the stronger lines. The weaker lines is actually originate from the lower photosphere where the temperature is small, and the stronger lines originate from the upper photosphere. Now if you consider the pressure and the density of this region or this layer, it is very much smaller than that of the terrestrial values, that is values at the surface of the earth at the sea level. If you consider the pressure, atmospheric pressure on the surface of earth at the sea level, you know that it is 1 atmosphere. 1 atmosphere is actually 760 millimeters of mercury. In SI unit, it is 1.01 into 10 raised to 5 pascals. But the atmospheric pressure of photosphere is 10 raised to minus 2 times less than that of this value, that is terrestrial value. So the pressure on the photosphere layer is 7.6 millimeters of mercury, or 1.01 10 raised to 3 pascals. Now if you consider the density on the density of air on the surface of earth at sea level is actually 3 kilogram per centimeter cube, but for the photosphere it is 10 raised to minus 4 times lower than the value at the on the surface of earth or the earth's atmosphere, and the density of photosphere is 3 into 10 raised to minus 4 kilogram per centimeter cube. Now let's consider the observing part of this photosphere because it is the visible part of the sun, and the depth of the photosphere through which our eyes can penetrate actually depends on the part of the disk we are observing and the opacity of the photosphere gas. If we are observing the photosphere through the or near the center of the sun's disk, then we can see the deeper and hotter photospheric layers. That means if you consider sun as an exact disk like this, suppose earth is here and a person standing here is observing the sun. Suppose this is the center of the sun and this is the photospheric layers, and a person observing the photospheric layers near the center, he can see or he can observe the deeper and hotter photospheric layers. If it is hotter, you can see much brighter regions of the photosphere. But when a person, the same person is observing the sun's disk near this one, this is the apparent edge of the sun. These are the photospheric layers actually. So when a person is observing this apparent edge, which is called the limb, then he can observe the cooler superficial layers of the photosphere, so that his view has to penetrate through that cooler regions. When these regions are cooler, it will appear little bit darker compared to the hotter regions. So that a person observing the sun's disk at two different points, one is near to the center and one is through the limb, what he can observe is that at the limb he can have a decrease in the brightness, and this decrease in the brightness is called limb darkening effect. So limb darkening effect is the phenomenon in which when an observer observes the sun's disk through the apparent edge of this sun's disk, then his view has to penetrate through the cooler superficial layers of the photosphere, so that the apparent edge appears to be darker compared to the center region or near regions near the center. So that effect is called limb darkening effect. Now the decrease of brightness of the solar disk as we go across the center of the edge points to the fact that there exists a temperature gradient across the photospheric layers. The temperature decreases as we move from lower to upper photospheric layers. This is the lower and this is upper. So as we move from lower to upper photospheric layers, we can see a decrease in the brightness, which is called a limb darkening effect. This is due to there is a temperature gradient exists in the photosphere. That's why we are discussing about the average temperature of the photospheric layer is around 5800 Kelvin, or some others will use it as 6000 Kelvins. Now let's discuss about the second layer, which is the chromosphere. Here this is again originated from the Greek. Chromo means color and sphere means ball, so chromosphere means it is a color ball. It is again a thin transparent layer, but it is 10 times thicker than the photospheric layers, and which extends about 2000 kilometers or 1200 miles above the photosphere. Usually this chromosphere is not visible to us because this is completely a transparent layer. That means our view is penetrating through it so that we cannot see the chromosphere, but it is normally visible from Earth during the total solar eclipse when it glows red due to its hydrogen gas. So it is having a large content of hydrogen, and it appears rose colored ring of seething flame during the total solar eclipse, hence the name the chromosphere. The temperature of this region is unexpectedly increases outward through the chromosphere. This is another interesting fact about the chromosphere. During the total solar eclipse, you can see a beautiful effulgent halo embracing the solar disk, and which is called this chromosphere, and it is a seething flame of rose colored ring which is called the chromosphere, which is whose temperature actually increases as we go from the lower part of the chromosphere to the upper part of the chromosphere. The average temperature of matter is about 15,000 Kelvin. As you know, we have mentioned that the average temperature of the photosphere is 5,800 Kelvins. So the next layer to the photosphere is the chromosphere. So the lower regions of lower part of the chromosphere has a temperature 5,800 Kelvins, and it increases and up to around 16,000 Kelvins in the upper regions of the chromosphere. So the average temperature of this chromospheric region is 15,000 Kelvins. So there is an unexpected rapid increase of temperature when we go along the chromospheric layers. When we are talking about the gas density of this chromosphere, it is very low, so that it absorbs or emits a very small amount of radiation. It's since it is transparent, I told you it is very transparent, so normally we cannot see the chromosphere, so its opacity is very low. Opacity actually measures the it is a factor of measure of transparency of the medium or material. If it is highly transparent, the opacity will be low. If the opacity is very high, its transparency decreases. So when we are considering the chromosphere, its opacity is very low and it is almost a completely transparent layer. Now if we observe the spectrum of this chromosphere, that gives the information regarding the elements present in that layer, that if you consider the lowest layer near the base, the spectrum shows the lines of various neutral metals such as iron iodide and sodium iodide, etc. Neutral metals are due to which gives a fact that the temperature is very small. So the temperature in the lower layer near the base is small, that I told you it is around 5,800 Kelvins. Now if we go higher above, the lines of ionized metals such as iron 3+, calcium 2+, strontium 2+, titanium 2+ constitute the chief spectral feature. That means at higher levels the temperature is very high in the chromosphere region. So the presence of neutral metals reveals that the temperature is very small in the lower part when compared to the upper part of the chromosphere. Now let's discuss about the third part of the sun's atmosphere, that is corona. Before that, let's see a picture which gives the schematic representation of the different layers of sun. When this part is the center part is the core, where the nuclear fusion reactions takes place, and this is the radiative zone, this is the convection zone or convective zone, and in between this convective zone and chromosphere you can see a very small or thin layer which is having a very small temperature around 6000 kelvins or 5800 kelvins, which is the photosphere. And surrounding this photosphere you can see a ring which is actually a rose colored. Here it is colored as yellow. It is all schematic representations, anyway rose colored, but it is very high temperature, of the order of average temperature is 15,000 kelvins, which is the chromosphere. Now you can see the uppermost part of the sun's atmosphere is the corona, which is the outermost part of the solar atmosphere, which extends up to several solar radii and has a brightness equal to the full moon. This corona is also completely transparent region which we cannot see during normal days. It is clearly seen only during the total solar eclipse as the effulgent halo embracing the solar limb by the inner end, while the outer end stretches far beyond the solar disk, gradually merging and losing its identity into the interplanetary space. The spectrum of corona was first studied in 1869 only by the American astronomer W. Harkness and C. A. Young, and its successful photograph was obtained in 1930 by French physicist B. Light. The transition between the chromosphere and corona takes place around a radial distance of 1.03 solar radius. That means if you go a distance of 1.03 solar radius from the center of the sun, you can have this transition of chromosphere to corona. On the basis of the nature of radiation emitted by this corona, the three components of corona can be recognized. That means on the basis of the spectrum obtained, corona can be classified into three. That is inner corona, it is otherwise called continuum corona, K corona. The outer corona, which is otherwise called Fraunhofer corona or F corona, and the third one is called the emission corona or E corona. Now let's see what is this inner corona. Inner corona or K corona, it is sometimes called the real corona. It is about 70% of the total corona. That means if we observe the spectrum of the coronal radiation, we can see that 70% of the solar spectrum or coronal spectrum is a continuum spectrum, and which is a part of this inner corona. It actually extends between 1.03 solar radius, that is starting from the chromosphere, and extends to 2.5 times the solar radius. So if solar radius is this much, then it extends to around 2.5 solar radius. This is 1.03 solar radius. This is solar radius, and this distance is to approximately 1.5 times the solar radius. It actually imitates the continuum spectrum of the photosphere. Here this K stands for the German word continuum. that is it refers to, or its meaning is continuous. Since this inner corona or K corona spectrum is a continuous spectrum, that continuous in German we call it as continuum, and that K is used to represent that corona, that is K stands for the German word continuum. Now if you consider the temperature of this region, it is very extremely high, which is very of the order of 10 raised to 6 kelvins. And another important thing is that Fraunhofer lines are absent in the spectrum of corona. That means Fraunhofer lines means some particular type of emission lines are observed in a continuous spectrum. If you observe the continuous spectrum of a material, sometimes we can see a sharp lines in this continuous spectrum, and that sharp lines are called Fraunhofer lines, which are particular characteristics of the particular elements present in the in that medium, and that sharp lines are absent in this part of the coronal spectrum, that is called inner corona. Now if you consider the F corona, which lies at a radius greater than 2.5 times the solar radius, which displays the solar spectrum with Fraunhofer lines superimposed on the continuum. The inner corona is sometimes called real corona, and the outer corona is sometimes called false corona, or false part of the corona. And don't remember that this F in the F corona not stands for the false, but it stands for the Fraunhofer. So Fraunhofer is the scientist who first observed these Fraunhofer lines. That is why it is named as Fraunhofer lines. So that this F stands for the corona with Fraunhofer lines. The spectrum of F corona is produced by the sun's light scattered by tiny dust particles of the interplanetary space. The F corona together with K corona constitute what is called the white corona, which merges into the interplanetary space with a decreasing brightness. So this is the actual coronal structure of the sun's external atmosphere or outer atmosphere. Now depending on the spectrum, we can have one more classification for the or category for the corona, which is called the emission corona or E corona, where E stands for the emission. The inner and outer corona are actually the absorption part of the corona, or the spectrum is actually the absorption spectrum. In this optical range of coronal spectrum, about 2 dozens of emission lines are found to be superimposed on the continuous background. The total light of these emission lines formed by highly ionized atoms in the extremely hot inner part of the corona constitute what may be called the E corona. The total radiation in these lines is quite small. It is less than 1% of the total coronal radiation. So now if you consider the total spectrum of the corona, you can see that only less than 1% of spectral lines is from the emission part. The spectral analysis of extremely higher order ions of various elements yield that gas density is very low and coronal temperature is very high, that is approximately 2 into 10 raised to 6 kelvins. Now that's all about the different layers of the sun's atmosphere. Now if we consider the particle density in different parts of the atmosphere of the sun, you can see that corona has a particle density ranges from 10 raised to 6 to 10 raised to 8 particles per centimeter cube, which is the least. So corona is having the least particle density, and if you consider the chromosphere is having a particle density of 10 raised to 10 to 10 raised to 12 particles per centimeter cube, and the highest particle density is for photosphere, which ranges from 10 raised to 16 to 10 raised to 17 particles per centimeter cube. That's all about the structure of the sun. Thank you.